The Brightside Chronicles is about to go down with Kerry and Nana. You ready for the show to begin?
Hey, let's go. Let's get it. It's almost showtime. Let's go. Let's get it. It's almost go time. Let's freaking go.
We're all there. Greetings, everybody.
I love that me and Alex were just literally just.
Well, I had to dance to that intro music. It sounded like some 80s kind of synth-wavy thing.
Yeah, and it's so funny. So funny story. I said to Nana, I'm like, we need an intro. He was at his house, and so we just recorded a little brief snippet, and I just slapped it behind in front of music, and let's go, let's get it.
I really get hyped every time I hear that, and it's not even like a braggadocious thing. I just think it's just like it's invigorating. Like, yo, let's get this. Let's go. It's go time, baby.
It's always good to have something like that. Yeah.
With that, everybody, first off, thank you for our third installment of the Brightside Chronicles. I already see Miss Annie. Are you okay joining us?
Hey, yo, what up, Annie?
World. Today we have AM Arctos, which is Alexander's pen name. Yep, we talked about working out. To talk to us about joy and how joy influences his everyday experience. And for anybody who doesn't know Alexander, I highly recommend you follow him on Instagram. He, like Nana, is just a ball of joy. Like, I never know when he is gonna be dressed up or doing some crazy shenanigans. So it's so cool to have you. Thanks for being here.
Sure.
Thank you, and for inviting me.
Anytime. And then of course I got my partner in crime coming up here. Yeah, I don't know. It's he kind of one of my favorite people in the world, but it's all good. So anybody out there watching, please feel free to add your 2 cents. We would love to hear how you bring joy, or if you have any questions for any one of us, we are happy to answer them. But AM Arctos, talk to me about what joy means for you.
Well, to me, joy means being in the present moment, connecting with my life, and just kind of fully experiencing whatever it is I'm experiencing. I'll be honest and say, like, I haven't always been the most joyful person. I probably spent years of my life being angry, frustrated, depressed, and lonely. But I think throughout that, I discovered that what I really want to do is experience the bliss of existence, to grow, to learn, to be, and to express that to everybody else around me. And so I figure if I'm not enjoying and growing and learning, there's no point to existence. I might as well, just dissolve into the infinite.
Oh, so I'm curious with that. Would you say that joy in any given moment is a choice?
To a degree. And depends on who you're talking about and where you're at consciously. You could say with this self-help kind of mentality, oh, yes, it's always a choice. You're a free-willed person. But I also feel that most people, and even myself sometimes, are driven by unconscious patterns and habits and tendencies. I know you work a lot with addiction, Carrie, and in many ways, even if we're not on some illegal substance, we're addicted. Maybe even just to our day-to-day routine and the stuff going through our heads since childhood. So it's kind of a choice, but only if you're fully conscious and fully aware and maybe even enlightened. Who knows?
Okay, so I'm curious. So you just shared that you spent many years kind of in this angry malaise, this depressive state. What was the pivotal moment that you then switched to choosing joy?
Well, honestly, for many years, I was in a very miserable relationship that was passionate and in some ways loving, but was also very harmful. And that went on for years and years, and it kept dragging itself out. And eventually I decided that I was going to go no contact with that person, and finally drop them for good after like 8 breakups and makeups. And I spent the next couple of years kind of shaking myself from that relationship, being lonely a lot of the time, but also going inward, finding out a lot about myself. I admit, I had some assistance from plant medicine, from psychedelics a little bit, from going into meditative states, from delving into my dreams, and just deciding I wasn't going to waste my life on stupid bullshit anymore. Excuse me, all you babies out there.
No, we swear. Trust me.
And, always, please.
It's not. And then, like, I don't know if there was a single moment, but it was a gradual process of doing, many personal ceremonies, mental rituals to let go of all that bullshit holding me back, and to focus my life in a different direction and do what I want.
So first and foremost, I want to point out cool headphones. Like the green color is very. You knew I was gonna say that. There was no way I wasn't gonna say that.
Oh, I carefully chose them over at the Five Below.
So I absolutely love that. I love the feel that we're and the vibe that we're getting. And going back to what you're saying, the whole like 8 breakups. First and foremost, that's a lot. And I gotta give you credit to go back and forth and things of that nature, because that's what we're programmed to kind of go back to what we're comfortable with. And I'm pretty sure Kerry can attest to that. Like, if you're with someone for that long, you're like, I want to work it out, figure it out. Sometimes it's just, it gets to a point where you're like, okay, like I got to move on. And thankfully you found your sense of joy in who you are as time went along, because you're like, okay, this doesn't serve me anymore. And so that within itself takes a lot of power and just like commitment to figuring out oneself to be like, okay, I've already passed that phase of life and I'm moving on to the next phase. But I just want to point that out. I love that idea. So
thank you.
And so then now we're talking about joy. And I mean, I alluded to the fact that you have a pen name, AM Arctos. Why don't you share with the listening audience how it is you infuse joy into the world from your own unique perspective? Because there's a couple of ways in which I've experienced you bringing joy into my life. And I would love for you to share more about that.
Yeah, in many ways, I just try to be my authentic self, whatever that means. And I say that in quotes because, the real self runs deep. There's so many different aspects of who we are, and maybe who we truly are can't even be expressed in words or in a human body. So what I try to do is close as I can and choose to express that in fun ways. Like, to me, I've always been a creative person. Since I was a little kid, I love to create my own inner worlds and storylines and characters. And, as a kid and into adulthood, and still I've run Dungeons and Dragons games and other role-playing things. I like to dress up in silly outfits.
Let's go.
One of the things that I talk most about is my narrative podcast called The Space God Memoirs, that's set in a distant galaxy, populated by beings that will harvest people's spiritual energies to power their technologies, things like sentient starships and reincarnation. And there's, of course, great cosmic battles and all that too. There's a little spiritual aspect underpinning it, but I try to have fun with it. And so if you two and people in the audience haven't listened to it yet, listen to the Space God Memoirs. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasting stuff, or check out the links there.
Yeah, exactly. So and so this is the 3rd season of Space God Memoirs, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what inspired you to create this fictional experience that many people are, enjoy?
Well, you see, there's a couple sources of inspiration. Like, I think if you go deep down into it, I've had ideas and concepts of this universe brewing in my head since at least middle school. when I created this fictional, my own role-playing game world based off of just different ideas I had, where it was a lot different back then, a bit sillier, a bit more chaotic, but ideas of this sci-fi type of universe where it still involves magic and the supernatural, and eventually kind of evolved into this setting where there's no difference between the idea of magic and technology. Like I said, soul-powered starships and spirit harvesting operations and all this stuff. And the idea for the main character, Kef, kind of was inspired by an old Dungeons and Dragons character I once played, who started off as this low-level rogue, like a street thief, became an assassin, turned around and became a hero, and then eventually rose to godhood. But he's a bit sillier than my D&D character, a bit more fun, and other inspirations for Space God come from the dreams I've had. I've always been a very vivid dreamer, and it was in fact dreams that inspired me to start writing Space God as a story to begin with. And, well, like I said, there's some D&D in there, but I think I've been inspired by things like Star Wars and Stargate and Guardians of the Galaxy, all the Marvel stuff, everything. And yes, Star Trek, sure.
I couldn't help it when you said that. I was like, nah, I gotta just throw a little sign in there.
Yes.
But no, I love that you brought that up, because the creativity aspect of it, right? So, being a cosplayer myself per se, right? I see certain draws of inspiration of characters. I'll see like a SpongeBob, and I'm like, oh, that would be cool if I did a different variation.
I saw yours.
Oh, it's the most sporadic, and like Carrie's seen me in, Dora the Explorer, which has nothing to do with anything, but it's just random. But like, it's a draw of inspiration that you get from TV shows, media, things of that nature that kind of put into that perspective of like molding your character. So like with your situation, like, I'm curious about like what is like the draw. I mean, obviously you said dreams and things of that nature, but like how does one put into like words and into this is what I'm trying to go towards, like of what story that you have in mind?
Well, I mean, that's just I've worked on being a writer for years and years and years, and it's just getting into that and learning how to tell the story is a matter of practice. You gotta sit down and like do writing sessions. Usually the way I generate the stories for Space God is maybe I'll have a brief outline of what I'd like to see, but most of it is like when I sit down and write, I might be inspired to write a scene. It comes to me, and then later I might put that scene into a context in a story, or I'll make notes of what I'd like to see in the story. Of course, with some things like a long-running series like Space God, I do have in mind a vague idea of what I'd like the way ending to be at like season 7 or 8 or something like that.
Dang.
And sometimes I think of like, what would I need here to get us there eventually?
Got you. Okay.
So I'm curious. So when we're talking about joy, and I think for me, this is so important. So Nana and AM Arctos, when you guys are cultivating a character, whether it's in your Space God memoirs or whether you're thinking about the next outfit that you're going to portray an image of, do you find that the ability to tap into that like creative and curious space helps you experience more joy in your everyday life outside of the moments where you are actively either cosplaying or working on creative endeavors for your podcast?
Why don't you answer that first, Nana?
All right. I mean, my take is, it's the daily stuff that I do, whether it's getting to the gym to lock myself in to get ready for the day, whether it's, hearing from you, babe, just like, how's your day going, whatever it is, or just like catching up with family, friends, people that impact me on a regular basis. All those things culminate to like how I kind of want to go about it. Like the other day, and this goes back to like a Facebook post I just put up. I was at the gym, worked out, whatever it is, and I always post like a little fitness thing because a couple of my gym heads will text me or they'll tag me into this thing where it's like gym check. So it's like you take a picture of your workout, whatever. So that's what it is. That's like a thing. But I made a video and then one of my friends was like, yo, you look like a Greek god. And I thought it was funny. I was like, bro, first off, I'm not even from Greek. Like, let's be honest. So can't do that. But like, it was funny because I was grateful that he felt, compelled to say that. And so I was like, oh, that'd be funny if I did something like Greek god. So this morning I'm literally at the gym and I'm working out, obviously. And so I just Googled Greek god and I'm like, oh, this is funny as shit. Like, this is why he probably thought about that. And that inspired the post because it was just like a comical way of just being like, I'm grateful that you felt that way, but that inspired me to create that. And it's just the content creating is always like, it's a ongoing process because you can draw inspiration from so many things. Like, I've seen friends of mine who, are bigger names and they're million followers, which is amazing.
Oh yeah.
But they just do what makes them happy. Like my friend Taki, who I did reach out to him, babe. I did. I'm waiting for him to respond back. He didn't respond back yet, but I'm gonna get on. But he dressed up as like a Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. And it's funny because he's like this buff, like 5'6", like ball of energy type of person, and he's dancing in a Shaggy outfit. Like, how funny can that be? And it's like he has a black wig on. I'm just like, that's cool stuff. That's the stuff that you look forward to on your feed that kind of like will bring that sense of happiness to me. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like if I need a pickup, I know where to go to kind of get that sense of happiness and joy from.
Yeah, I love that. Go ahead if you want to answer the question.
Oh yeah.
AM, and then I'm going to add something that came to my mind to what you said, Nana.
Okay. Yeah, like how this helps us get a sense of joy in everyday life.
Yes.
Yeah, I've noticed like maybe the more I get into creative things and spiritual things and thinking outside the regular and the mundane, the more I can observe everyday things as being magical. I've learned to appreciate just random works of art, random weird finds I see at the thrift store. You learn to find the magic in like the sunset and the sunrise and to feel the wind on your skin. And even just like you see an oil slick on the ground brimming with rainbow colors. We tend to see like what we're used to and think of that as the mundane. But one thing you can train yourself to do is to see the magic and the miracle and all that too.
Ooh. Damn.
That is so good. It was so funny. Nana and I went to a fashion show last year to support one of Nana's friends. And at the fashion show, there was a couple of women and they spilt something. And one of them was like, oh, I gotta clean this up. And another was like, wait a minute, I need to snap a picture. Look at the design of the spill. And I remember that so vividly because I'm like, yes, like you are present in the moment. You are able to witness, that moment of like real joy. And that's amazing. Going back to what you said, Nana, is you purposefully, and I can say this from having observed your behavior the past almost 5 years, you purposefully cultivate joyful moments at the beginning of your day. Like, no kidding. It will be 5 o'clock in the morning and I'll be in the bathroom getting ready for work. And Nana will be laughing his butt off over something. And I'm like, nice. What is going on right now? And even the other day when I was at the house, because the bathroom is in between Nana's brother Edmund's room and Nana's room. And it was early in the morning. I was getting ready to go to day 2 of an 8-hour seminar on suicide prevention, which by the way was god awful for so many reasons. But anyway, I just was listening to the laughter and I walked into Nana's room and I'm like, oh my God, I am so lucky. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, every single time I'm in this house, whether it's you or your brother, the two of you purposefully like just consume content that makes you laugh, which then cultivates joy in my experience. And it's awesome.
Nice.
I mean, it's so funny because I'll be scrolling through like Instagram and stuff like that. And my thing is like, my feed is probably the most like just sporadic of just like you got fitness, you got cosplay, you got anime, funny videos of like just reckless. But that stuff, like, and not that I'm consumed by technology and social media, but like if I'm downtime or whatever, I'll just scroll through in the morning. I'm checking the weather, whatever. Scroll through, and then I'll see it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is freaking hilarious, and I'll just start laughing, and I'm like, babe, you got to see this. This is mad funny. But that's the thing is like, that's the same thing with my younger brother because he has that like, sense of happiness and joy that he eludes it, you know, in his own way. And so there's numerous times I'll be hearing him laughing, and I'm like, he probably saw something funny as heck that was like, it made him like smile in that moment, and that's cool.
Nice.
That's a very healthy way to break up the mundane of life in general. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because I didn't used to laugh very much at all. And still, like, if someone tells a joke, I usually don't laugh. Or like some comedy on TV, usually I don't laugh. I can appreciate the humor.
Yeah.
But like a few months ago, I was at the Art Institute in Chicago, and we were in the ancient Asian art section with like these old Buddha statues, and I could just feel that connection there to it. And that kind of caused this feeling of joy, and I started laughing out loud. And I think and also tend to laugh at like weird stuff. Like I had like the worst chile relleno dish at a horrible Mexican restaurant at a place like in a nearby town not long ago. And I usually love that dish. They messed it up so badly, and it tasted bitter and stale and rotten. I was laughing about it for like weeks afterwards because it was so horrible.
First off, when you said Mexican, I'm like, that bathroom got to be crazy. First and foremost.
Yeah, maybe. I only ate like a few bites of that thing.
I love Mexican food. Like, we can attest to it. Like, that's like my like, number 2 favorite food to eat. And so, like, literally when I heard that, I was like, nah, this is going the wrong way. It's probably going in a shitty situation, pun intended. But like,
no, not quite. If I'd eaten the whole thing, probably, or hospital situation, you never know.
Yeah.
No, but there's something about like hilariously bad stuff that can make me laugh. Like bad movies, like Troll 2 is one of my favorite movies, The Room, and like dumb stuff like that.
Okay.
As opposed to Adam Sandler.
Well, you know, it's so funny because if you look at any of the people that I have ever gained insight and wisdom from, whether it be like the Dalai Lama or Desmond Tutu or Gandhi or Martin Luther King when he's delivering a certain speech, if you look in their eyes, you deadpan see the joy. Like it exudes them. And I do believe that you can tell when people are in joy. Like, you know it. It is a lived, felt, visceral experience. And that's why I was curious if the two of you kind of utilize maybe your ability to create in your mind, whether that shows up in a cosplay character or a character on, you know, the Space God memoirs, and use that to navigate the choppy, unexpected waters of life that definitely come up. And to your point, Alexander, don't always feel so good.
Yeah.
Would you like to go first, Alexander?
Yes, I would. I'd say like I've kind of gotten this mindset sometimes that everything we do is a character. You know, the regular self we put on, it's a character. That's not the real us. That's just this version of us we kind of created and built up probably since early childhood and probably inspired by various parents or authority figures or role models around us. Like I admit, probably part of the way I speak was modeled after the He-Man character on the old cartoons when I was a kid.
That's a good
sounded like this. I am He-Man. And I kind of took that on, and other characters too, and that kind of formed the supposed self of mine. And so it kind of helps you realize that it's all a character, it's all pretend. So maybe the best you can do is treat it like a game and have fun with it.
Well, great point. I love the character aspect because that's like the same thing with like when I go to work, right? So there's work Nana and there's regular outside of work Nana, right? Yeah. Work Nana is I'm here to get things done. I'm here to serve. I'm here to figure out what makes sense. I'm here to educate people, right? And it sometimes does come off as very like stoic because I just want to just do my job. Because at the end of the day, it's a job. It's I'm thankfully there to get things done and then get paid for it. But once I leave work, it's a whole different me. Like you get all different variations of me, and it's not that I'm putting on a front or anything or a character, but it's just I kind of limit myself to certain things because it's just a different pace. Like we hosted my birthday karaoke on Saturday, which was freaking amazing. And talk about characters. There was numerous characters, like family, friends, and it was so enjoyable because you had my family dressing up, and they don't ever do dress up. Like even Carrie dressed up in cosplay, and I was like, oh, this is cool. So like you had Carrie in a cosplay, you had even an Oompa Loompa, which was freaking awesome. That was like, and just a whole cast of different people. But it just shows that there's different sides to us of like, you can be locked in and focused in one occupation and also be yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
But staying consistent with yourself.
But I also think that kind of goes to what you were saying, Alexander, prior to like earlier, in that you cultivate authenticity in every moment, but that authenticity presents differently because we're not the same in every experience, right? Like, so you're very driven and focused at work. It's not that that's inauthentic to who you are. It's just that outside of work, you have a different lens to how you want to experience things. So you're just as authentic in a very different way.
Very, 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 very.
Yeah, cool. I mean, if the real self is this like infinite higher dimensional thing, then everything we can express can be authentic, no matter what point of view we're coming from. As long as we're not trying to actively deceive ourselves or others, then that might be inauthentic. But and I don't do that. But I have all these different characters I play every day too. And I don't necessarily like dress up for a drink review when I go to work. But sometimes I post silly reviews of different sodas online and put on silly costumes and pretend I have a different accent or whatever.
What you mean?
It's fine.
What you mean? Well, actually, I have a British client and her daughter is young, and I talk to her like this. And because she's British, she looks at me and is like, "You are bananas, lady." And you're talking about, I'm like, I know, I know.
First off, that accent is terrible, very terrible. But a good try though. It's okay. It's no worries at all. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not the best accent. It's worse accents out there. I'm assuming it's sort of different kind of British accent here.
I was trying to pull a little Simon Cowell real quick from like American Idol, like that type of vibe. But that was wild. But
no, it sounded good. That was a really good one. I thought maybe you were actually British.
He lived in England.
Oh, you're from there. Cool.
I grew up from like age 5 to 8. I lived in London. So
shout out. So we have Kels.
Oh, word.
By the way, we want Kels on our show. We have Rob.
Okay.
Now talk about a person who knows joy. So Rob is. You're from Kenya, right? Where's he from? Kenya. Okay. Yep. And he is like a ridiculous ball of joy. You just see him hanging around in the gym and just. So if either of you have a comment, feel free to drop it.
Speaking about comments wise, I noticed that Annie had wrote something as well, which I love. She had wrote, "Laughter helps you live longer," and I was like, "That's real stuff." And like, I think people sadly almost take that for granted because we're almost like preconceived or pre-programmed to think always like, "Oh man, like why me? Why me? Why me?" But why can't it be you when it's a good thing? You know what I mean? And that's something that sometimes like I think we almost pass by the wayside because it's like we're used to just the regular mundane. And I want to say shout out to Connor for writing the best night ever, because that within itself at the karaoke on that Saturday night was a lot of people's like getaway from life, tough month or whatever it is. Me personally, it was just a refresher to be like, dang, this is cool. And it wasn't even like a braggadocious thing. It was just more like, I'm glad that people are enjoying themselves. I was checking in, same thing with Carrie and everything like that too.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do karaoke with y'all. That sounds
Oh my
awesome.
God, it's a vibe.
It is.
And
It
you know,
is.
so I want to talk about joy being healing, because interestingly enough, I'm not one to scroll social media. I kind of drop my content and dip. Maybe I spend 10 minutes on it. Like, I just creeped Alexander's library, because anytime I hear book, I'm like, oh, gotta be a creep about somebody's house. I don't know why. But anyway, so I happen to see this beautiful, amazing soul who, his name is Al Richards. He works in the addiction recovery space. He does speaking. He has a great energy. And all of a sudden I look on his page and he got amputated. This man is in construction, super fit, has muscles like you, Nana. And all of a sudden I'm looking at like his leg cut off above the knee. So me being me, you know, I reached out to him and he answered, and we started shooting the breeze and stuff. And I said to him, obviously I send light and love, but he has a great disposition. And I said, me and Nana will send you random funny videos, because we know that laughter is the best medicine. And Al totally gets it. Like, Al was like, I'll be on this show, because I reached out about that. And but really, to Annie's point, laughter is how I work with clients in the throes of suffering. Because if I'm working on some heavy, deep subconscious belief, or somebody's speaking their shame story for the first time and it's really like heavy, when you break that monotony up with laughter, it's palatable. You're able to like move through that suffering and like in a easier way. And so I think laughter is profoundly important in all areas of our life, including the areas of healing and overcoming suffering.
I agree. I think when I was at my most depressed and lonely after like my biggest breakup, I mean, I think part of my recovery was watching a lot of silly comedy shows on TV, and you know, ones where I could connect with the characters, where I could laugh with them, that feel that like, oh, love and friendship and connections actually possible, maybe. Yeah.
And you know, it's so funny because Nana and I, while we were at the karaoke, this gentleman up at the bar stopped us, and he looked at me and Nana and he said, "Thank you so much, because you give me hope to find love." And it's really because Nana and I, at the end of the day, our greatest connection with each other is we make each other laugh. Like hands down, I could be in the worst mood and Nana will randomly out of nowhere lick my face or do something totally.
No, you can't tell them about that. You can't be throwing that out there. They didn't got no little secret sauce.
You do it in pictures. What are you
good technique. Thanks for the tip. Nice.
I ain't giving the secrets. I can't just no. But go ahead. Do you think?
No, but it's true. Like, I think that what is so important for me is laughter within relationships, and actually Nana and our daughters. Like, our daughters are hilarious, and they're sarcastic, out of pocket people. Like, I mean, people would listen to Julie and Billy talk to me and Nana and think they're totally inappropriate and outrageous, and me and Nana love it. I'm like, we did so good.
An example. So on my birthday, right? Julia, our oldest daughter, texts me, "Happy birthday, old ass." And I was like, bruh, since when is 36 considered old? Like, I'm like, I haven't even, like, I'm like, age is a mindset. You know what I mean? My thought process, you can be 70 and still feel like you're in your 40s, or you can be, you know, 40 and feel like you're 90. You know what I mean? So, like, literally when she texted me that, I was like, okay, I see what you did there. And so guess what I did on her birthday? I texted her I copied the same message, and I said, "Happy birthday, old ass," even though she's only 17. But I had to give her the same shit back, because like she had to it was just a funny moment, and she was like, "Thank you." And it was just like funny as heck, because it was just like, I'm gonna give you the same dish back. Like, you know what I mean? So we can shoot the breeze, but I'm gonna still get it back to her. But it's a bond that we have, and it's a joy that we both bring to each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've started to have that with my my girlfriend now. We've been together about 6 months, and we've
Oh,
had our own private humor and jokes between us. Like I mentioned, the horrible chili relleno that I still kind of laugh about sometimes. We had together, and yeah. But not only, I think maybe laughter makes you live longer because it makes you want to live longer. You don't
hmm.
want to live too long if you're miserable all the
Ooh,
time, but if you're feeling happy,
yeah,
some joy, okay, it gives you more reason to live.
that's deep.
Yeah.
That I like that. That's a very good mentality because, like, I think even with myself, like, I get it. We all have our moments of like just challenges and things of that nature, but like, there could be a certain moment that literally will like deviate from that to kind of help uplift your spirit. You know, what I mean, like, so
Yeah.
today, like, earlier today, I went to Solomon Pond Mall. That's where I went to, and I was just staring at the architecture, just in awe, because I'm like, oh, this is cool. And there's like, I didn't notice this, but there's doves that they draw. It's all on the top of Solomon Pond
Mm.
Mall. And
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
yeah, I didn't know that I was there. I was just sitting just in awe because I was waiting for food, which I actually was waiting for Mexican food because I'd ordered Mexican food because I was starving. So
Yeah, man.
that was good. It was really good. So it
Mm.
wasn't as bad as yours. But there was literally like they had like ducks or whatever because it's Solomon Pond Mall. So that's why
Yeah.
it's like ducks around the area. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I never noticed that as a kid. Like, you know what I mean? You've been to probably the Solomon Pond Mall numerous times, but I didn't think about that. But it was just a cool moment to kind of take into as
Yeah,
well.
that's kind of what I was talking about before, just like appreciating all that little stuff, all the details. Like I'm a gamer and I've played a lot of video games
Yep.
too. And when you enter a new game and you can marvel at the great job they did on the
Yes.
graphics and
Yes.
everything and immerse yourself in the world, you could do that in your physical world too. And notice like, oh wow, those trees have really good graphics or whatever. And that could be
Woo.
experienced. Yeah, I like little moments like that, appreciating all
Yeah,
those
and you know
things.
what? And I do think, I truly get what you're saying in terms of levels of consciousness, Alexander, around, experiencing joy every day and every moment. But I do think that it's a practice that can help people
Mm.
become conscious. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I just flipped off this guy for cutting me off.
Oh my.
Maybe next
What else
time,
is new?
instead of
New?
flipping him off, I don't know, I stick my tongue out and then laugh because I'm like, I don't, but like,
Nice.
I do believe that joy, I like you, Alexander, joy did not come naturally. And I've actually shared this with Nana before.
Mm.
It I inherently woke up a very anxious, depressed person. Like every day. Like that was the first waking state was very fear-based, really anxiety ridden, really afraid. But then as I started to make the choice, and it had to be a choice, I started to
Shit.
change
Yep.
the wiring in my brain. Like it's been proven, we rewire the neural pathways, the grooves within our brain that taught me, instead of naturally looking for, the ick, like the jerk who cut me off, to look for the joy in maybe the geese flying overhead while the jerk's cutting me
Woo.
off. And I'm gonna pick
Yeah.
and know to look at the geese instead of the guy.
I
Yeah.
mean, and not to cut you off, Alexander.
Oh,
I was gonna say that there's numerous times where we go on a road trip or driving around the area, and Carrie does this thing where she obviously looking at the road, but then she's like, "Oh, babe, look at the eagle," and I'm like, "Yo, like we gotta focus on the road," but she's so like enthralled and enamored by the eagle or whatever animals flying around there that she might have spotted, and I'm like, I didn't even see anything, in all honesty, but like
yeah.
that sense of like it's almost like a childlike moment for her, and I think it's just amazing to see because it happens every time we're in the car, and I'm like, she's just constantly looking around, and I'm like, what's she looking for? But like, it's just cool to just see that in the moment. And I mean, our daughter's gonna attest to that. We see that all the time, and like, mom, like you're a bad driver, but she's really not a bad driver. She's a good driver.
Oh, that reminds me of last week, or was it the weekend before? I was hanging out with my girlfriend driving around in town, and she was
Yeah.
driving, and from out of the woods, something comes, and she's like, "Oh, look, a pheasant!" And there was this colorful bird, pheasant. Yeah, and then she's going like 50 miles an hour. She ends up hitting it.
Oh
with the car.
no!
And we see it splat afterwards. And we did this big, this like ceremony to release it, to release any guilt that she might feel towards it.
Awesome.
And she ended up this past weekend deciding to cover up one of her old tattoos that she didn't resonate with anymore on her hand. And she got it replaced by a tattoo of a pheasant.
Yo, the dedication.
No, I love her so much. That's real talk. That reminds me of the story. So like 2 years ago when I started to recognize, because when you're in a higher energy, when your frequency is higher, I really I believe that like what you think about manifests more quickly. And Yako and I talk about this because I'm like, man, thing that I was thinking happened. So I'll never forget a couple of years ago, you have all those starling birds that fly in a flock, those tiny birds, and they swoop through the air. And so I thought to myself, I was like, man, I hope I don't hit one. The very next day I'm driving with Julia. All of a sudden I clipped one. So I stopped. And I drove past it, and I just started laughing hysterically.
I feel like I remember this story.
Is looking at me mortified. She's like, "Oh my God, my mom's like a serial killer of birds." And she thinks it's funny. But I just had to laugh, and I'm like, wow, like you really can experience like your thoughts real time really quickly, depending on where your energy's at. And then, I said a little prayer to the birdie, and if anything, I actually gave thanks to the birdie, because the birdie then showed me that, if I'm thinking about offing a birdie, it's really going to happen. So I might want to be thankful.
Yo, what the? Nah, that's impressive. First and foremost, like to manifest that just because of that. And I definitely remember that story. I remember you told me about it. I was like, y'all literally pulled over the side, and then
of course I had to pull over and pay my respects.
I respect it.
Of course.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah, I once hit a deer, and I had to pull over and say my respects for it, say a few prayers for it. Although in that incident, as I was saying the prayer for the deer, like it got back up and walked away. It was fine. But,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
you
years
made
ago.
it back to life. See,
maybe I resurrected the deer with magic. Maybe.
That's crazy.
This kind of lends to the idea, and I know that you, Alexander, definitely vibe with this, but Nana too. We know we're energy, right? Would you not say that when you're joyful, I feel way more powerful in joy than I ever do in like lower energies. Like I just feel like I can conquer the damn world, even if it's like trying to change suicide prevention summit. Like when I'm joyful, I'm like, oh, I and it's so funny because my mother said to me, she was like, that's kind of what'd she say to me today? It's a lofty, or rather not ignorant, something goal to think that you can change an entire structure. And in my head, I'm like, I don't know. It's not that I think I can. I know I can.
Why not?
You must. Yeah, I think in that joy is our power. You were saying before that when you get to higher vibrations, you can manifest more. I have found that to be the case. I never manifested any of my darkest thoughts or my fears, because that wasn't a place where you could do that from. But hey, nowadays I've set it up with the universe that whenever I feel I'm on my right path, I'll see a purple car. I see plenty of purple cars now. I even found this kind of cool, like lavender colored feather on the road the other day. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting. It's probably painted one, but it was kind of cool to find it synchronistically. And I think you got to step into that joy, that bliss. And I think Ananda is what they'd call it in the Hindu tradition, where you're in that kind of divine bliss the whole time. Like you don't necessarily need to feel good all the time, but you got to be walking in your purpose, walking in your power. And then, hey, if you can't change an institution, then then who can? You got to be able to. Institutions are nothing. They're human creations. They're abstractions. Whether you're talking about our government or the religion or history, all those are like abstracts that people make up. And even the economy, it's a people thing. It's a thing people imagined and which only exists because of people's beliefs in it. And so, we can change that. And we will.
So something that you said, and I'm gonna actually, so Annie speaks to this. I'm not gonna paste it. Annie says the universe speaks to you in weird ways that only you can understand. And what you said, Alexander, is spot on, is that you made that agreement with the universe. I knew, like, when I first started studying manifestation, which, by the way, guys, we are all manifesting. And I want to highlight something. If we're in fear, we are manifesting that fear. You're just not going to experience it as quickly because, that's why our thoughts have power. That's why Nana and I are super passionate about doing a show on joy to get people to give themselves permission to consider joyful thoughts and joyful experiences rather than fear-based ones, because that fearful thinking will eventually present itself in what you experience, i.e. like, oh, I really hope I don't off a bird, and then I, off the bird. But equally so, when you're in that higher energy, you attract more of the joy and the love and the things that you want to have much more quickly. You just see it, you think about it, and you kind of see it. And when I started looking into like understanding energy and attracting rather than force, which is working arduously to achieve something, I said to the universe, 2-2, because it's my older sister's birthday, 7-7, and then certain symbolisms. And if I feel like I'm not sure what I'm meant to do, I'll just simply say, hey, universe, I need a sign. And hands down, I will see one of those things without question.
So nice. And that happens a lot. So going back to the point that you guys are talking about was, so Carrie's seen this a couple of times where, like, if I'm like in a place of like not necessarily like sadness, but more like I'm just like confused, I always end up finding like a dime. And there's numerous times where like I'm like, babe, of course I found a dime, like in the middle of nowhere. It could be like, I don't know, middle of a restaurant, and I'm like, why is there a dime here? But the dime, I looked it up, it's like, to me, it's a sign of like somebody's watching over me, in the sense of like they're guiding me towards what I need to get to. And so like every time I find it, something good just tends to happen. And so like it goes back to even like work-wise, being in the place of joy. I see it so many times where like if I'm in a state of like I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated, it does go against me, because I'm going against that like notion of like things are gonna get better because I'm just thinking that way. But when I'm excited and joyful and locked in and like, yo, I'm like, oh, I can sell like 5 cars today. Like that was like the perfect example was, so my sister came to get her service done. This is like a month ago. She showed up on a Saturday morning. She was at work, and I was super excited to see her. And then my daughter,
shout out to Michelle, we love you.
Yes, my daughter Julia was there, and so was my niece Alexis. So they all kind of met up, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a great, great, great day. And literally, like, it transpired to be a very productive day at work-wise, where I got in front of a good amount of people, and I just was feeding off of that excitement of running around and just like being in the moment of joy, and being in like almost like a zen-like state of like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know how to like kind of like will things to happen. And so it goes a long way when you see that, actually.
Yeah, to me, anger, fear, they come from places where you feel weak, where you feel powerless, like you can't do something about something you don't like, still you're angry. And so the angry person is usually afraid, or they feel like they're being threatened, or they don't feel in their power. When you're in your power, you're going to be probably happy. You're probably going to be feeling that joy. And even like the most serious of spiritual practices, the greatest of gurus had said, if you're really in that practice, you'll be laughing about it, because it's not something to be taken seriously. Because, once you've stepped beyond your little self, your little egoic beliefs, then you realize that the universe is not such a serious place. It's not. None of it is absolute or real, and so it's not to be taken too seriously. So you have fun with it.
Oof.
Yeah, like yeah. And as a gamer, I tend to also view life as a potentially like being in a big MMO, like a giant online game, where maybe it feels like you're your character. Maybe it feels like you're this limited person, but you're really not. You're the player of that character, and the game isn't real, but it's okay because it's a game. The purpose is to have fun, not to be miserable about it. Doesn't mean you can't try your best, but have fun.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think that from my experience, and I'm curious what you guys' perspectives are, more people. So I find that people are more inclined to hang on to their suffering than they are their joy.
Yeah.
And it's simply because of the narrative that is out there through no fault of their own, right? Like, it's like, I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with, and I can work with a client one time and get their energy to shift to be more positive. Because, right, it's an energy exchange. And secondly, if they're working with me, they've already made up their mind to at least have a different experience. Unequivocally, 9 out of 10 times, the very next day, somebody's like, well, I'm waiting for this bubble to pop. All the time. And I'm like, and so I'm curious what you guys' experiences with like your observations around people and allowing themselves to stay in joy.
Ooh, would you like to go first, Alexander, or you want me to go first?
Sure. I can go first on this.
Okay.
It's maybe possible that that which hangs onto things, which clings on and won't let go, is something that is more closely aligned with sorrow and regret and frustration than with joy. That joy is what happens not when you hang on to anything. So you cannot hang on to that joy. It cannot be grasped. You just gotta. That's what happens when you let go.
Yep.
And maybe that bubble has already burst, and the bubble was not the bubble of her joy and her good moments or their good moments. It was the bubble of despair. And once that's gone, the light shines in, and you're glow with it.
Ooh, damn. Nah, he dropped some really good stuff right there. I mean, me personally, like, you know, I could go through some challenging times. Like earlier this week, I mean, Perry can attest, I had some words with a family member that weren't so nice because we just were at each other's throat. It is what it is. But I spoke on how I felt in that situation. And normally I'm the type to kind of like, I'm not a confrontational person like that. But if it gets to the point I just need to just speak my piece, I'll speak it. You know what I mean? Like I'm too just straightforward to just like, oh, let me just cover it up and just pretend that it never happened. Like I just gotta just address it for what it is because it won't sit well with me. So I spoke upon how I felt. The other person didn't feel too excited about the situation. But that within itself just showed that like I had gotten off my chest, because if I kept that in there, it would have just been just settling, and I would have just been like more irate that I didn't get to speak my piece on how I felt in that moment. And once I said that and got off my chest, I was a little frustrated and hot. But as the day went on, I was like, you know what? It happened in that moment, and I have to understand that like in that moment, I was okay to be upset and angry and whatnot, but it was just a moment. And so like I normally tend to like shift it, and then I'm like, you know what? There's other things going on. I have other things that I got to focus on with family. I got friends and, you know, people that care for me that I can always transmute and shift my emotions to something in a better place than just kind of gloom and doom and, oh man, what a, you know, sad situation, poor me type of thing. Like that's not.
Well, not only that, you know, I want to go back to what Alexander said, because I believe you're spot on, right? So I've caught myself doing this. I love hawks. Like if I see a hawk, I'm gonna like, oh my God, I see a hawk. Hey, look at the hawk. Right?
All the time. I should record you saying that. That'd be funny as heck. So I can just put it on my page.
I know. But what I find is if I grasp on to trying to find the hawk, I lose sight of the awesome tree that's in front of me. I lose sight of, you know, the snake that's slithering. And that really happens. And so I always, I take my walks out in nature, as that reminder to, yes, it's awesome to be able to witness that cool rainbow as you look up. But if you're so busy looking at the rainbow that you don't look forward, you can smack yourself in the face with a tree and then not, feel good about the rainbow anymore. So it's really important to just stay in that present moment and enjoy what it is, but not grasp for it to stay the way you think it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, even like anger and fear and all that, there's nothing wrong with feeling those things.
Right.
And just, you don't gotta hold on to them. You don't gotta grasp onto them. Maybe those are just like thought. Maybe those are just things coming at you in some field, and they're not really you, but you can experience them and let them wash past you. Like this episode hasn't come out yet in Space God, but eventually in season 3, Kef gets a meditation where you say the mantra, in your mind are notions like waves in an ocean. Watch them float by, but stick to your devotion. Part of the detachment meditation he'll learn in several episodes.
So Annie says, as silly as it sounds, I learned happiness and joy from my dog, who I love, Melvin.
Shout out to Melvin.
Melvin. He doesn't know anger and being upset. He knows happiness, joy, forgiveness within seconds, and being content. Little lessons he brings. But that's such a real one. I do fundamentally believe that animals have that ability to teach us so much when we're willing to witness them and just be in their presence. I love that so much.
Well, speaking of, the first time I ever met Melvin, I remember I think I had just dyed my hair. It was like bleach. And I remember Annie came up, and I think Annie was getting a car or something of that nature, but I remember him just jumping on me, and I was like, who's this little guy, bro? I mean, he wasn't even little, but like, it was just so cool. He was just like attracted to me, and I was like, dude, that's freaking awesome. Like, he can feel the energy of like, hey, this person is like good energy right off the bat. You know what I mean? Because animals can tell that right off the bat when they meet someone.
Yeah.
Let me stay away, or like, this.
And
because
you know what? I'll even say, and this is where, I work with people all the time on children, especially young children. We don't intentionally do this, but we condition intuition out of children. But I tell people, if a child is willingly going to go up to you, awesome. But if they're willingly resisting you, trust that too, because kids feel that, and and even if, like, I know kids, if they are around adults that are anxious, they're less inclined to go up to them because they feel that anxiety. It doesn't feel safe. It's not welcoming. It's not calm energy. And so I always encourage people, absolutely make sure that you just allow people to have their experience, allow animals to have their experience. If the dog doesn't want to come meet you, then that's okay. Ask Annie. Like, Melvin did not want any part of me for a while, and I was cool with it. I'm like,
because you're
on your space. Like, I totally get it. It's all good. Eventually Melvin sat in my lap.
Oh, nice.
Yo, that's Melvin, man.
Well, with 1 minute left, guys, do either of you have any final thoughts you want to impress upon the listening audience around joy and how joy or leaning into the joy in the way that feels right for you, Alexander, it's through podcasting and dressing up and doing silly things. And for you, Nana, it's doing cosplay and really connecting with people, like going to the mall with Lulu today, just really engaging in that connection that you want to share with the listening audience.
Yeah. Would you like to go first, or Alex, you want me to go?
Well, I'll let you go first.
I mean, my thing is really like, I think it ultimately comes down to just living the moment, because like, even when I was at the mall per se, right, I was looking up and this was like, there's families, there's kids, there's people trying to solicit you on all these things. And I'm just like, dude, I just came here to window shop. Like, I wasn't even trying to buy it. I was there for I just need to get out the house. I just want to just do something, you know what I mean? And so living in the moment, in that moment, was just the peaceful mind of like looking up and be like, this has so much out there that we just don't know. And I just love the idea that I just took it in that stride. And I didn't notice that I even had the pattern, but I was just like, oh, that's a cool thing to kind of talk about. But that's it.
Yes, I agree with you there. You said it first, the live in the moment thing. All the joy and the connection is found in the moment, in the now. Most of the times we spend, most of us, living in our little bubble of thoughts and patterns and ideas. And once we step out of that bubble or expand that bubble, then maybe we can experience the world for what it is. Otherwise, people say, oh, the world is terrible or whatever, but they don't know. They've never seen the world. They got to get out of their thought bubble. And so, yeah, be in the now, just try to experience what's in front of you, what's around you, and love.
Yeah. And lastly, to couple with that, because I agree, it's being present in this moment. Let go of expectation and curiosity. Like let go of expectation and come from curiosity. We condemn ourselves to suffering because we have this expectation around how this show, the Brightside Chronicles episode 3 with Alexander, is going to unfold, or how Nana's gym experience working on legs is going to unfold. We truly suffer, right? Or when you rip out your earring from your ear as you're talking, like we suffer because
that was part of it,
right? Because oh, I do it all the time. But we suffer because we have this expectation of how things need to look rather than letting them unfold the way it goes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I love this. All right. Well, Alexander, I can speak for both Nana and I, and that you are welcome any Thursday at 7 p.m. that you want to come join the party because we love your energy.
Correct.
And for the listening audience, I really hope that you give yourself permission to experience a little bit more joy in your evening and in the days to come. And until next time, we will see you all next Thursday.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Brightside Chronicles.